Hey guys, Crewman here, and I just spent the last 6 hours between yesterday and today. The first 3 hours of this were actually live streamed yesterday. I will be doing that again in the future, as it was cool just doing what I would normally be doing while you guys were hanging out with me, learning how to precisely overclock the 4070 Super. And I can say, wow, I'm surprised pleasantly. This thing was kind of the throwaway GPU from this Super Series refresh for me at first. Now, I think this could be the best miner in the 40 series for basically everything but Kapow, and I'll go into that shortly. So, before I get into the overclocks that I'm going to share with you, because I have a complete guide of what I think are the best overclocks for everything, all of my settings have beaten hashrate.no by quite a bit, minus Kapow. More on that one later. Remember that this is only a single 4070. My overclocks are not yours. You may have to adjust a bit, and this is for entertainment purposes only. If you overclock your GPU and something happens to it, it's not my fault, and I'm not responsible for it. Finally, I did not hook up the GPU to the riser. It's just on the PMD, as you can see right here, because I had some issues, as you could see on the stream yesterday, hooking it up to a riser on this test bench, and I wanted to test this in my main studio. I'm going to fix that in the future, but basically if you want to get the power that the 4070 Super is using from the PCIe slot, you just subtract the power from the wall from the power from the software to the power from the wall, because the software power is most of the time going to be greater than the wall. If the GPU is taking nothing from the PCIe slot, then it will match it. So let's get to it. Basically, I'll put my results right over here that you can see them, and I'm going to explain just the bare bones basics on each algorithm. So the first thing I do want to say is the peak efficiency is at the boost clock of 2475, and I got that from basically just reading Tech Power Up, and staying around there seems to be the most profitable. The settings that are highlighted in green are my preferred settings. And one final thing is that all of my settings are done in herominers. I think herominers is the best miner, is the easiest miner to use. So all of my settings are there, and you'll have to, if you use a different one, you'll have to adjust accordingly based on your preferred miner of choice. Okay, so let's start off with Pyram. Basically, the biggest thing you need to know about Pyram is that the core lock controls efficiency, hash rate, and power use. So the more you clock up the core, the more hash you'll get. And basically, with a lot of these algorithms, the core lock, you can get it around, you can get the offset at about up to 500, which is very different than the other 40 series. And you probably want to stay around 2500 for the locked core. You can go higher, but you start to lose efficiency. Carlson is basically the same as Pyram. They essentially overclock the same, as you can basically see right there. Again, when you lock the core clock, that's how you essentially control how much power you want this thing to use. The cool thing is that you can take it, you can drop the efficiency. I'm sorry, you can drop the power usage to basically a 4060 Ti. Should you choose, or you can crank it up as much as you want if you don't care about power and are going just for yield. But like I said before, you lose a lot of yield after about 2600 on the core clock. So conflux. So the biggest thing about conflux, as you can see right here, is you need to lock the core clock to keep the power down. It doesn't affect the hash, but if you don't lock the core clock, the hash rate, the power just spikes through the roof for no reason. The offset doesn't really matter otherwise, and locking the memory is what determines your hash rate. So hashrate.no said do it at 1000. You can crank it up to way more than this. I just stopped at about 18 because I was happy with the settings. So with Ironfish, the offset doesn't do anything. Again, if you want to lower the power, you have to play with the core clock. The offset has very minimal, like with all the other core algorithms, it doesn't really do much. It's all about the locking the core clock and keeping it at about 500 on the offset and 2500 on the core clock gives you the best settings. Nexa behaves similar to Ironfish, where adjusting the core clock affects the hash rate the most. I tried playing with the memory offset and the memory lock, and it didn't really do anything on Nexa. A lithium behaves the same, essentially, as iron, and RxD behaves the same. But one thing I did try to do with RxD, which you could apply to any of the other core algorithms, I wanted to up the core to see how high I could take it. I took it to about 2,800, and while reducing the offset each time, to get a tiny efficiency bump. But after 2,700, it just uses too much power. And you want to keep the offset between 2 to 300 if you do this, as dropping it lower starts to push up the power with no gain. And another interesting thing, which I've already said earlier, is that I wanted to see how low I could get the core. And you can basically, I dropped it down to, I dropped the core to about 1,800. I forgot to edit it over there. And you essentially can get this thing to about a little bit better than a 4060 Ti, but similar to efficiency. It's just nice to know that if you own these, you can drop the power and save almost 40-ish watts in a pinch if power was if you had to worry about efficiency and total power usage. So it was just an interesting activity that I figured out, and I liked what I saw. So if we go on, Hyperia is, I don't know. I mean, it's a memory algorithm. People ask me to test it. So essentially, how to overclock Hyperia. The first thing you want to figure out is how far you can push the memory offset. For this specific card, I got it to 2,300 before it crashed. And then you want to lower the core clock until you get the best balance of efficiency and hash. It basically hashes similar to a 3070 Ti, so it's just okay. I tested it out against a 4080 last night, and it got crushed in pure Hyperia mining. Then we did Ergo, and Ergo is similar to Conflux and Hyperia, where the memory clock basically controls the hash rate. Ergo is one of those things where I just tested it to test it. I would never mine Ergo on anything, like just straight Ergo. It's a coin that you always want to mine with a core algorithm. And finally, before we get to the dual mining, we're going to go to Kapow. And essentially with Kapow, you have to lock the power level. One thing that I don't do that hashrate.no did was lock the power level. If you lock down the offset, the core offset and the core clock, you won't need to lock down your power. But with Kapow, you do, because if you don't lock the power to 150, you basically end up at like 33 mega hash for like 200 watts, and it's terrible. So essentially, the best you're going to get on this is make it a 3070, which is not a good thing. But when you look at everything else this does, I can live with it not mining Kapow well. So if you'll notice, I skipped over dual mining. I have Conflux and Radiant. I've got Ergo and Radiant. I've got Ergo and Pyram, and that essentially translates to Ergo and Carlson. Essentially, with dual mining, all the settings are the same. You basically the sweet spot for all of them, and I tried tweaking, and it changed nothing. Is you want to get the core clock lock. You want to put it about the offset at about 200, the core clock lock at about 2,500, and you want to set the memory clock lock at 1,200. The memory clock offset does nothing. Essentially, when I calculate how to get profitability for these, I take the total power and I just split it in half, which is why I don't have power here. I do have the efficiency numbers. I will make this public eventually. You can always just pause my video to see. Let me move over a little bit. But you can always pause my video to see what settings and efficiency numbers I have and compare them to yours. But I do think dual mining is the way to go on these. Personally, right now, dual mining Pyram and Ergo as of the day of this filming, which was January 23rd, it's about 25 to 30% more profitable than anything hashrate.no has. And again, all of these settings that I have here are more profitable than hashrate.no. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took a long time to do, but I'm very, very happy with it. And I'm going to do a much deeper dive into the 4070 and the 4070 Ti, and I want to compare these. But I will say that the 4070 Super overclocks unlike any other 40 series I've seen. And you have a lot, and I mean a lot of headroom to either take this thing higher or to bring it down. So I am very, very impressed. And overall, I think that this is, even at MSRP, you're not going to find it any cheaper now, unless you have like a Micro Center credit card and you get the 5% off, or you go on Amazon and you use your card. But I would buy this for MSRP hands down all day. I would almost rather have one of these over like $200-$300 3070s. Now, that's a stretch, and you could argue that either way, and I'm sure I'll spark a lot of debate. But I really, I'm looking at you getting the camera right here. I'm looking at you guys. I really like this card for GPU mining, and I think it's going to end up being the best one in the stack when we're all said and done. Even better than the 4060 Ti. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe for more GPU mining content. I'm doing a ton more content on GPUs. The march to 3,000 continues, and I have a lot of exciting things coming up. So again, please like and subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave any questions in the comments down below. Crewman out.